Hashtag trending is made possible by the generous support of Zoho Canada, a unique and powerful software suite to transform the way you work. Designed for businesses of all sizes, built by a company that values your privacy. Visit them at zoho.com. Firefox uses AI to increase accessibility. Microsoft is cutting more jobs. Intel plays catch up with its new product announcement. And the Canadian government's procurement crisis questions value for money spent on an international consulting company. These stories and more on the Where's the Beef edition of Hashtag Trending. I'm your host, Jim Love. Let's get into it. Mozilla is implementing AI in Firefox to automatically generate alt text image descriptions. These are critical for users who rely on screen readers, but the descriptions are often missing, as in many cases they have to be manually entered, and when you're in a hurry, well, guilty as charged. There are two ways you can handle this. Instead of a cloud-based model that would raise privacy concerns, Firefox is going to run a lightweight open-source machine learning model locally on the user's device. The local model provides several benefits: improved privacy by keeping image data on the device, better resource and efficiency on less powerful hardware, transparency into what model is used, lower carbon emissions from avoiding a large cloud model, and ability to frequently update the model. Now, while not as powerful as the latest massive language models, the focused model will provide concise single-sentence captions like a group celebrating with a birthday cake, which fits the specific use case and is probably as good as you're going to get from what an actual person would enter. The initial rollout in Firefox 1.30 will be for generating alt text and PDFs using this approach before expanding it to web images. Now, this is a great example of using AI capabilities and applying them in a targeted, practical way to solve an actual problem, enhancing accessibility and the user experience, while prioritizing privacy, efficiency, and transparency. There's a lesson we can all learn from this. When we focus on solving real-world and often less than sexy problems, we can find real benefits from AI and other technologies today. Microsoft is reportedly cutting more jobs from its Azure Cloud Computing division, according to industry sources. The layoffs are reportedly focused on Azure for Operators and mission engineering. One source estimates the cuts to the Azure for Operators team alone could involve around 1,500 job losses. These teams are part of Microsoft's Strategic Missions and Technology organization. It was created in 2021 to house cutting-edge initiatives like quantum computing alongside the company's government cloud business. The latest Azure layoffs come after Microsoft announced plans last year to eliminate 10,000 roles company-wide in the first few months of 2023. While Microsoft regularly trims some staff as it transitions to a new fiscal year after June 30th, the frequency and scale of job cuts has escalated in the past few years. Microsoft has conducted multiple rounds of layoffs since the beginning of 2023 as it looks to reduce expenses and refocus resources. The cuts to its Azure cloud unit suggest Microsoft may be retrenching some exploratory and futuristic projects originally housed under that umbrella as it doubles down on nearer-term priorities. With AI now a key focus following its OpenAI partnership, Microsoft may be attempting to streamline parts of its cloud business to reallocate investment in areas like generative AI, perceived as having greater commercial potential. Intel had some announcements to make at Computex this week about its Lunar Lake processors as it attempts to regain some ground against rising competition. Given the amount of attention to its much smaller competitor AMD and the new giant NVIDIA, it's easy to forget that Intel still has about 80% of the market share for the PC desktop processor and overall close to 70% of the CPU market. But the company has certainly had some issues keeping up with its competition. Its foundry business reportedly lost close to $7 billion in 2023. At least part of that loss is attributed to the fact that it had fallen behind its competitors in key areas of manufacturing. So with NVIDIA and AMD making huge announcements, it was critical that Intel join in with some new products of its own. Set to arrive in Q3 2024, Intel will introduce Lunar Lake to surpass its Meteor Lake chips. These new names may seem a little strange to those of us who are used to hearing names like i5, i7, or Pentium 2, but surprisingly, the code names of many Intel processors used have always used something like something Lake. And despite talking about NVIDIA and AMD, Lunar Lake seems more focused on competing with customer-turned-competitor Apple. It will integrate RAM directly into the CPU package, something Apple also does with the M-series silicon. Intel claims this on-package memory consumes 40% less power. Performance-wise, Lunar Lake CPU cores see moderate gains, though the high-end versions will have fewer cores than Meteor Lake. But the integrated GPU based on Intel's Battle Image architecture promises up to 1.5 times better performance. Intel is coming to market with new neural processors and looking to get a boost in performance to 48 trillion operations per second, meeting Microsoft's requirements for advanced AI capabilities in Windows 11. While still trailing Apple's leading M-series chips, Lunar Lake represents Intel's effort to pack more performance and efficiency into a conventional design as it looks to fend off AMD, Qualcomm, and others nipping at its CPU dominance. McKinsey, the influential consulting firm, is facing intense parliamentary scrutiny in Canada over $100 million plus in federal government contracts. But the firm's legal woes extend far beyond Ottawa's spend. McKinsey is also under investigation by the U.S. Department of Justice over its alleged role fueling the devastating opioid crisis. Prosecutors are examining if McKinsey conspired with pharmaceutical firms like Purdue Pharma on marketing tactics to unlawfully boost prescription opioid sales, contributing to widespread addiction and deaths. The criminal probe is also looking at potential healthcare fraud violations, as well as accusations McKinsey obstructed justice by ousting partners who raised concerns over deleting documents related to its opioid advisory work. But back in Canada, opposition MPs are demanding accountability for the Liberal government's ballooning, soaring term, up over 1,700% since 2017. The opposition also claims that public services staff maintain that the services provided were of little or no value. As someone who worked as a consultant for over 20 years, I've made no secret of my belief that procurement is broken in the federal government in Canada. But it's not a liberal or conservative thing. It's a question of how we procure services and how we ensure we get actual value. Unfortunately, this little scandal won't solve the problem, but it does raise awareness of how our governments from both major parties have wasted not $100 million, but potentially billions because of our broken procurement systems. You shouldn't be spending that much money and not be able to immediately identify where you got the value. I'm going to do a replay of the show we did recently on procurement for this weekend's edition. This is something we need to focus on and we need to fix. And that's it for today's show. Remember that you can get us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We're available on YouTube in both audio and video format. Show notes are on technewsday.com or .ca, take your pick. I'm your host, Jim Love. Have a wonderful Wednesday.